Look at the steam from this tea. Hello and welcome to a writing tea time chat. I've got my peppermint tea here in honor of the season, although I am a big fan of peppermint tea in general. I thought it'd be fun to do a little writing chat and talk about a few different things today that have been on my mind in terms of my writing. The first of which is that I made zero progress in the last week. 0 words, 0 time spent writing my book. And I know you might be thinking, why? Didn't you have time? And the answer would be no. But we'll get to that in a minute. I also want to talk about my writing experience so far. The last time I wrote, I reached 10,000 words, and I feel like I've gotten in a little bit of a flow, so I want to talk about what it's been like now that I have a little bit of an idea of how I write. And then I want to talk about burnout, because I actually, in conjunction with last week, have reached a point where I might be close to burning out, and I want to talk about it. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Stephanie. I am an aspiring author who is writing her very first book, and I have no writing experience. And this has already turned out to be quite the adventure. It is still too hot to take a sip of this tea. I'm gonna burn my mouth. So let's just get started into the first topic, which is writing during a difficult time. As I mentioned previously, I have not written a word since a week ago. And that has been really tough for me. I wanted to explain kind of why that happened and what I learned and what that means as a writer. What happened is that I had a very, very, very bad week last week. It is one of the worst weeks that I've personally had in a very long time. And I was really stressed out with work. I had a really bad work week. And then on top of that, I had a few different personal things happen that were pretty bad, and it consumed all my time and it consumed all my mental capacity. So over the whole week, I was just so focused on all these things that I barely even thought about my book. I honestly didn't think about it till like halfway through the week last week, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not even really thinking about my book. And that's very unusual for me. Typically, I'm thinking about my book all the time. I could be driving in the car or doing errands and I'm running through scenes in my head. I can be sitting on the couch for a few minutes writing in my notebook or writing, and I just am thinking about this book all the time. And for the last week, I barely have thought about it. And so it was really interesting to me that this just happened, and it's kind of like life got in the way. It really did. And as a result, I didn't write anything. I did try one night. I tried on Wednesday night. I still remember it. I had about an hour of free time. It was like 8 or 8:30. I had kind of wrapped up all the things I was doing to address certain issues throughout the day. But I said, I have this time, let me try it. Because I knew it was going to be rare for me to find time over the next few days. I tried. I sat on my couch, I opened my computer, I stared at it, and I learned 2 things like within the first 5 minutes. The first was I was in a terrible mood. The whole week, I was sad, anxious, nervous, worried, upset. And what happened was when I sat down, I needed to write a very particular scene. I knew where I left off and I knew exactly what I needed to write going forward. So that wasn't the issue. The issue was this scene is like light, fun, joyous, something that's fun to write and that you kind of need to be in a good mood to write, honestly. And I was in a terrible mood. And I think that really translated into my attempt at writing, because I would write a few sentences and then I'd be like, oh, this is horrible. This isn't conveying what I want it to convey. That was the first issue. The second was I could not focus. I had so much stuff going on in my personal life, and it was kind of heavy stuff. And it's all I could think about. As I sat there and tried to type, my mind would wander to life stuff. And then I would try to refocus and my mind would wander again. So I had only tried for like 10 or 15 minutes, and then I just closed my laptop and said, you know what? I'm going to just do something else. I think this tea is finally cool enough. Let's give it a try. Nope. Okay, I'll try it again in 5 minutes. And as the days went on and I was still addressing these issues and couldn't really find the time or be in the headspace to write, I started to get really, really frustrated with myself. And I was getting upset that I was losing time. And I don't really necessarily have goals or deadlines I have to meet, but I would want to make progress every week, right? And I wasn't this week. I was getting more and more frustrated, and I was just like, I'm not making progress on my book. I'm falling behind. I don't need this to happen. And it was just kind of sending me on like a downward spiral in regard to this book. And I kind of had this realization a few days ago that so what? So what if I don't write my book this week? So what if I don't work on it at all? I am not a full-time author. I don't have a deadline. I'm not trying to write this and submit it to an editor or a publisher or anything. So I have flexibility and time. And I think there's just this pressure as an author to get your work out as fast as possible. And sometimes when life throws a curveball at you and you really cannot write, it's like really out of your control. It's hard to come to terms with that because I feel like a lot of times as a writer, you might decide to watch a TV show instead of write, or you might decide to scroll TikTok instead of write. And that's a choice that you made. And you can beat yourself up for it afterwards, but you know you made that choice. Whereas the situation I had over the last week was I didn't really have such a choice. But the thing that really stuck out to me in kind of analyzing the situation was coming to terms with the fact that I didn't write anything and being okay with it. And once I gave myself that grace to be like, you didn't write anything, but a lot of the stuff was outside your control. And it was, you tried to just get through the week. That's what I was doing, trying to get through the week. And I did. Recognizing that and giving myself that grace was probably one of the biggest things I learned, because I'm sure in the future I'll have another very bad week again. I just haven't had one since I've started writing this book. And even as I was planning my book in the past, I'm glad I experienced this early on in my book, because I think if I had experienced this later on, I would have put a lot more pressure on myself and been even more frustrated. But yeah, so that's why I didn't write this week. I had a lot of stuff going on, but I learned that it's okay and you just got to get through it. And sometimes you just got to focus on yourself. That's all. All right, let's try it again. I think it might be cool enough. I still see steam, but we'll see. It's good now. So on to the next topic, which is what I've learned about writing and how my writing process is going after hitting 10,000 words. So I hit 10,000 words last weekend, and it was a great achievement. I'm so thrilled with myself. And I just wanted to talk briefly about kind of what I learned in establishing like a writing routine almost, and the importance of figuring out what you have to do in order to work your best. So in this process to 10,000 words, I tried a lot of different things. I tried writing at different times. I tried writing in different locations. I tried writing with music, without music, with background noise, writing different lengths of time, and how often do I take breaks? So I tried so many different things. And really towards the end of the 10,000 words, I think I really figured out what works for me. What works for me is I love having music in the background. It makes me focus a little better on my work. I've always said I write better at night. I've noticed that I tend to write better with longer periods of time, and I'm talking like 2 to 3 hours. I've noticed when I write shorter periods of time, I can get in the zone, but then it gets me taken out of it really quickly. Whereas with 2 to 3 hours, I can really get in a flow state. And I find that it just comes a lot easier. I also have preferred, I set up a little writing desk for me. I featured in many of my videos, but I found that I prefer writing on my couch. I thought a desk would be better. It would help me be more focused, but I really prefer my couch. It's more comfortable. My living room is a lot cleaner than the bedroom that my desk is in. So it's mentally, it's a little more relaxing. I have my Christmas tree in here too, so I love sitting here writing in front of my Christmas tree. I feel like I have a little more vibes going in here than I do at my desk. So I'll still try to write at my desk sometimes, but I really think the living room is key for me. And I want to say I'm really glad I figured all this out, because I figured all of this out really early in my writing process. If I had waited and found something that worked for me later in my book, I think I would have maybe wasted some time. Now that I know, where to write, how long to write, what works for me, the environment, I found that I'm more productive and that I can just get in the zone really fast. Also, it's really helped me in terms of scheduling. When I started writing, I was just okay, I'm going to write at every time in the day. I'm going to write whenever I have a free moment. While that did work, it was very forced, and I wasn't really writing according to the best time for me to write. I was writing in accordance with what worked best in my schedule. And now that I know what time I write best and how long to allot myself for, I kind of have started to incorporate it in my schedule. So I know Friday and Saturday nights are usually the times where I like to sit for 2 or 3 hours and write. And sometimes on weeknights, I'll allot an hour of time to write. And knowing that going in, I can plan and do other things so I don't have that stuff take up the time that's meant for writing. That has probably been the biggest thing that I've come away with after 10,000 words, is just learning how I write and how to set myself up for success while writing. And the other thing I learned about reaching 10,000 words was how long it takes to write. For some reason, I thought I could just write a bunch of words at a time, a bunch of words in one day and a bunch of words in a weekend. And it doesn't really work like that. So it took me about 2 weeks to reach 10,000 words. I wrote 3,000 words in one day. Then I waited another week to write. And then I wrote another 7,000 words in a weekend. So that's averaging 2 weeks to write 10,000 words. Let me do the math. Book is 100,000 words, we'll just say, divided by 10,000 words every 2 weeks is 10, so 20 weeks it would take me to write the first draft if I continue at this rate. So 20 weeks is approximately what it would take me to write this book if I wrote 10,000 words every 2 weeks. And that's half a year. That's a long time. For some reason, I thought I could just write a first draft in a month or two. But based on my schedule and what I can do, no. And that's been kind of disappointing because I'm just so excited about writing this draft that when I actually sat back and did the math, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to take me forever. I'm a little bit worried about that. I'm a little bit worried about that getting me down because this is going to be a lengthy process. I'm just looking at it in terms of its experience. It's more time you get to work on your book. And honestly, I don't mind it. I just wish I could be done sooner just because I'm so excited about it. So if you're an aspiring author, just be prepared. Writing a book takes a long time. A long time. By the way, I love this cup because it's got a princess cow on it. Last but definitely not least, we need to talk about burnout. I am pretty much at the burnout point right now. As I mentioned, I had one of the worst weeks I've had in a very long time, and it kind of really brought my burnout to my attention. And I'll be honest, looking back, I've probably been burning out for the last month. I just hadn't recognized it. So I'm going to tell you what's leading to my burnout, and then I'm going to tell you how I recognized it, because I think it's very important to recognize it. As I look back over the last month, which is when I've really been struggling, there were signs that I ignored and things I ignored that if I had paid attention, and now that I know, I could have recognized the burnout sooner and done something to correct it. But oh well, now I know. All right, so what's leading to my burnout? Well, I have my full-time corporate job, I do YouTube, and I'm trying to write a book. And I just don't have time to do it. I truly don't. I have been trying my hardest. And I'm still coming up short every day. I have mentioned so many times on this channel how I'm struggling to balance work and life and YouTube and writing. I've been talking about it for so long that I finally realized it's never going to get fixed. I'm always going to have the imbalance. And for me to try and do all these things simultaneously, it's just not going to work. I work my 40 plus hour a week job. YouTube is probably another 10 to 15 hours a week on top of that. And then the writing, depending on how much time I write. But then I have all the other stuff I got to do, right? like life stuff. And it adds up. And, you only have so much time in the day, and you have to prioritize or pick and choose what you choose to spend time on that day. And a lot of times either YouTube goes or writing goes. What has happened lately is I'm letting stuff in my personal life slide in trying to stay dedicated to YouTube and writing. So I've kind of neglected like taking care of my house and cleaning up. I've neglected some yard work. I don't do as many activities as I used to do. Basically, my entire focus over the last month has been job, YouTube, and writing. So yes, I did recognize this yesterday. And I kind of want to go through how I recognized it because maybe you could do something similar and it could help you as well. So yesterday, my really awful, hectic week kind of came to an end. And it was around yesterday afternoon. And I said, okay, there is something that I've been wanting to do for probably 2 weeks now. And it's just basically going to a store. And I have been putting it off for 2 weeks because I haven't had the time. A lot of times when I dedicate time to it, something happens. Especially last week, I was like, okay, I'll go to the store during my lunch break, but then I would get like a work lunch meeting. So things like that would happen, and I just didn't go to the store. And so yesterday, after everything happened, I said, I'm just gonna go to the store. I've been wanting to do it for 2 weeks. I need to go. And as I went to the store, I was driving around the city, going to this store, and I was just like, I can't remember the last time I went shopping. Now, if you look back when I was doing a lot of weekend vlogs, I go shopping or I went shopping almost every weekend. It's really fun for me. I love it. Now, I don't spend tons of money, but I like to just get out of the house, go browse around, try a few things on, and maybe buy something. And I can't remember the last time I did that. I had a great time being out. Also, I was like, wow, this is so refreshing. I wish I could be out more. And then I came home and I contemplated writing. And I said, I was still a little jazzed up from everything that had happened in the week. And I was like, I just don't know if I still have the mental capacity to do it. I said to myself, I really feel like I need a break. I haven't had time to just sit and relax. Another example is Hallmark TV movies. Especially during Christmas time, I am on this couch at 8 p.m. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday watching the Hallmark movies religiously. I have maybe watched over the last 2 months 2 Hallmark movies. Really, there's like 3 a week and I've watched 2 in 2 months. I was like, okay, I haven't watched any Hallmark movies. What else have I not done recently that I could do to relax? And then I thought about reading. And then I realized I haven't read a book in 3 weeks. I usually read 1 to 2 books a week, and I haven't read a book in 3 weeks. And then I was like, well, I could maybe bake some cookies. And I couldn't remember really the last time I had made cookies. Especially during Christmas, I'm making cookies all the time. I love making different kinds of Christmas cookies and stuff, and I could not remember the last time I made some cookies. And I just was really shocked. And I was like, wow, I haven't relaxed or done anything fun in like the last month. And then as I started processing that, and I was just like, no wonder I feel like I don't have time for anything. No wonder I feel awful. And this wasn't just last week because I had a bad week. I have been feeling this way for a while. It was really in that moment last night when I was trying to figure out to relax, I need to relax. How do I relax? That I just realized I haven't relaxed in a very long time. Unfortunately, I don't have a solution for this yet because I figured this out last night. So I don't know what I'm going to do about it. Honestly, I have been forcing myself to write and really putting pressure on myself to write. And now I feel like I maybe need to not put so much pressure on myself. I've been trying to do YouTube very consistently. I've been trying to write very consistently. And quite frankly, I just don't have the time for all of this. And I need to really prioritize my mental state and my health. And if I have to miss a YouTube upload, I'm going to have to miss a YouTube upload. And if I don't work on my book for a week, I don't work on my book for a week. I will say I'm surprised I went this long without recognizing the symptoms. I've been burned out before in other aspects of my life, and I've known when to take a step back. but I think because this book in particular is something I'm so excited about and that I enjoy doing, it hasn't really, I've associated burnout with like negative things, like my full-time job or lots of crazy things going on in my life. I've never associated with having too many good things on your plate. But now I know that I was pretty much at the burnout point, and now I'm going to try and correct it, and we'll see what happens. So now that I have had a really crappy week and have approached burnout, but I also hit 10,000 words, which is progress, what's next? I'm going to continue to write. Don't worry about it. I will never stop writing this book. Well, I hope. I'm going to give myself a few more days just to recoup, and I'm going to start writing again. I'll continue with my writing vlogs. But I think it may just take a little bit of a different structure as I need to be more conscious about how I spend my time. I'm going to take time to focus on myself and make sure I'm in a good mental state, because as long as I'm in a good mental headspace, then my writing will be in a good space as well. You know, this is kind of the interesting, I don't want to say fun, but interesting part of writing a book with no experience is just learning new things. And this last week was really an eye-opener for me in terms of time, like how long it takes to write a book, how much time out of your day, out of your week it takes to write a book, and then the time away from your life that it takes to write a book. I'm glad it happened now rather than later, because it's always better to learn lessons earlier on than later. I'm trying to look at this whole experience as you're learning, you're growing, you're getting better at writing, and hopefully that continues in the rest of my writing process. So I hope you enjoyed my tea time chat. I plan to do some more in the future, especially for moments like this where I didn't write in a week. So please stick around in the future, because there will be more writing vlogs, and I hope to see you there.